everyone. This is the March edition of Explosive Youth Ministry, and I have my guest with me today, Minister Roman Harris, the youth pastor of the Canaan Worship Center here in Kansas City. And today we're going to be talking about some challenges that you face as youth leaders in youth ministry. So today, some of the things that we're going to be talking about is the challenges in youth ministry that you face as a youth leader. And Minister Harris, let's start off by asking you one of the questions. I'm just going to jump right into it. So what are some areas that you see? And, you know, in your experience, how long have you been doing that over at Canaan?
Oh, my God. I've been doing it close to 10 years.
Good Lord.
10 years.
He's
10
a vet.
years. 10 years. Took a little break, but then came back. But 10 years. But I've been a part of our youth ministry my whole life. I grew up in Canaan and everything. So grew up in the youth ministry. So it's been me.
Okay. So with your experience from growing up in it and then now being the leader of it on and off for 10 years, so we kind of share the same story, just a shorter time span for me. What are some areas that you see that we fall short sometimes as youth leaders, that it's not just your church, churches abroad fall short?
I think the number one biggest problem is finding consistent workers. Because one of the things I've discovered that with young people was most important is consistency. And so if you're there 1 week and you're gone the next week, or you're there 6 months and you're gone another 6 months, that does damage to young people. And so and I find myself very, very cautious on who I allow to work with my young people, because it's that important. Because the truth of the matter is, if they don't feel like you're going to be there, they can't trust you. If they can't trust you, they're not going to open up to you. And so I think that's the number one thing. And I think the next big thing is making sure that the workers understand this is more than just a ministry. This is a calling. Because the truth of the matter is, we're setting up the next generation.
That's right.
You know, we're preparing the next leaders. We're preparing the next pastors. We're preparing the next deacons, the praise and worship leaders. And so if we don't take this thing seriously, then we could damage the church as overall for the next generation. And so this is a very, very, very important work that we do, you know. And I think some people take it lightly, and I think some people kind of use it sometimes as a stepping stone. Instead of saying, hey, this is my passion. If God elevates me to somewhere else, hey, that's great too. But in the same token, I'm not going to use the young people to be a stepping stone. So in my mind, I'm already gone. You know, instead of being there focused completely with them, I think that's very, very important, because if the young people can't connect with you, they're not going to listen to you.
That's very true. I think it's great that you said it's a calling, because I think a lot of people, they get it mixed up because, I signed up to do this.
Right,
so they just look at it as this is something that I signed up to do. No, you really have to know, working with young people, that you are truly called to do this, or you're supposed to be doing it. Because otherwise, when you get attitude from them sometimes, when they're not going with the flow of how you want to do things, you'll get distracted and you'll be wanting to give up because you're not really called to do it. So would you say that it's effective for a leader to allow signups for youth leaders, or would you say that we should probably handpick our leaders?
Really, to be honest with you, I think you need both. I think you need both, because the truth of the matter is, sometimes people don't know what they have a passion for until they get into the process. So what we begin to do is that, because we don't tell people, hey, you're going to jump right in. We tell people, come in and start building a relationship with the kids. We actually give them a probation period, because at the end of the day, you have to do background checks, you have to do, and that costs money. So why would I invest that money into you when you're going to be gone in 2 weeks? So we say, hey, give them 3 months. They're going to be shadowing another worker. In that time, they're going to be able to build a relationship with kids. Because if you can't build a relationship with kids when you ain't got a title, or when you ain't over a particular thing, we don't need you on our team, because you don't have our young people's best interests at heart. And so I think you can work with both, but I think there needs a probation period where they prove themselves to not only the workers, but it also gives them time to build that relationship with the young people. So after they get through with that probation period, and here's the thing, you don't have to say, okay, you have to be here for 3 months. You get a person there and they going all in, and they've been doing it for a month, they've been faithful, they've been consistent. You say, okay, you proved us, hey, you want this thing. Let's go ahead and move you forward. Let's get your background check. Let's get your drug test. Make sure all that's clear because, hey, if you're a youth worker, you need to have those things.
Right.
Because you got to protect not only the young people, but you got to protect the church.
Yeah.
You know, we seen those people on Channel 9 News, Channel 4 News, youth pastor.
Right.
Because
pushing the kids.
Exactly. Because they didn't do the background check. So you have to have those things.
Yeah.
But in the same token, you have to protect the young people and from both stands of somebody who may be there for their own personal gain. Because I've seen this. I got an idea. I want to do this with the young people. I say, okay, that's wonderful.
Yep.
How about you start with doing this? You start showing up this Wednesday, this Tuesday night, or this Sunday, and I want you just to connect with the kids. And if they can't do that,
then you shouldn't be here.
You shouldn't be here. You have your own personal agenda, and so you have to protect the young people as they're your own kids. Just like you just don't want anybody working with your own kids. If you have them, when you have them, you do the same way with these young people.
That's right.
Because it's important.
And you're absolutely right about that. That actually taught me something. That was really good. What came to mind when you were talking was, if you look at the business world, because some people would get offended, like, why the church during probationary period? Well, when you go to a new job, what they give you? They give you 90 days, sometimes a 6 months probationary period to make sure that you're a good fit for the position that you're in. And I think that is excellent that you guys do that, because then if the person's not a good fit, you let them know, hey, I think that you should pray about what area of ministry that you should be in, because this is probably not the area for you, and direct them to that place. And you're absolutely right that we have to take on the mindset that it is truly about the kids. Number one, it's about the kingdom. And then number two, as being a youth leader, everything that we're doing ought to be benefiting the kids. It's not for your personal uplifting.
Exactly.
It's not for building up self. It's for building up these young people and making a positive impact, no pun intended, on their life, so that they can be that youth leader, they can be that pastor, they can be that whatever they want to be, whatever God has called them to be. It's our job to equip and train them to do that. So what are some ways that we can fix these areas that we fall short? So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. So for a smaller church, both of us, we're at larger churches. So we have the resources or the funding to be able to do background checks, but some of the smaller churches may not have the money to do that. So if they can't afford to do that, what's a way around that? Which I don't believe that you should go around it. Right. So that's why you have to look on your. If there's a way around it, how would you say to be selective about picking leaders if you don't have that resource available like we do?
To be honest with you, if you got adults who are being along with young people, that's a necessity.
Yes.
That's your air.
Okay.
That's your water. Because let's be honest, people can fool you. People, because let's be honest, you're with these people, if you're working in youth, you got a Sunday service, most likely, a Bible study. Outside of that, you send these people twice a week.
That's it.
At the most 4 hours. Anybody can pretend for 4 hours. And so I think it's necessity. It's your bloodline. You don't want to put them kids in trouble. You don't want to put the whole ministry in trouble, because if you get a person who's a pedophile, and we love everybody. We do. We understand God's grace and His mercy will change anybody, but your past is your past, and sometimes what you do in the past even affects your now. So if you had issues like that in the past, it's 100% likely that you can't work with young people.
Right.
And so you can't tell that by looking at somebody. That's right. And so sometimes we have to spend the money. And I'm not saying go out there and spend thousands of dollars. You can do it
online for $19. Do background checks.
Do background checks, whatever.
$19.
And I don't think it costs very much even for we use Quest Diagnostics, and we send them to whichever one is closest to them or whatever. And I don't think it costs a whole lot of money. So it's not very expensive. But that's the reason why you got the probation period too, to protect yourself from that. And so I would say from that standpoint, there's no way around that. You want to protect take the ministry, because if something happens like that, they can end up suing the church.
That's right.
Because let me say this to every youth leader: you're not your own ministry.
That is correct.
You fall underneath the ministry of whatever church
Yep.
you are part of. We call Young Nation. We're under Canaan Worship Center. We are a part. We're not a separate entity.
That's right.
We are a part, and so we have to understand that as youth workers, to look at it from the grasp. We have to take a step back and say, okay, we may cost us a little money. We may have to start saving up, or you may have to ask yourself, is it feasible for us to even have a youth ministry right now? If you got 100 people, if you got 25, and 95% of them are 1,200 years or older, you might not need a youth ministry right now. Build up to that. Work up to that. Be smart with that. So,
I think that's good. Yeah. That you're saying that they need to, that is a necessity, but I have to play devil's advocate and ask, is there a way around it? But yeah, it is a necessity. Like I said, it's not, it does cost money, but it's not a lot of money that it costs to do. It's $19 to get a very simple or basic background check on someone. Now, as far as the pricing, as far as doing the drug testing, I don't know the ins and outs of that part of it. Maybe you know a little bit more on that than I do.
To be honest, we got our security person that we take. We just give them the information,
and they do it.
But if you need the information, you can contact Mr. Justin Mackey, and I'll make sure he has that
I'll
information.
get the information for you. But yeah, because we want to make sure you're right, that you're putting the right people in front of the kids. So you personally, we're going to Canaan. We're traveling to Young Nation. What are some of the challenges with all the great things you guys have going on? I mean, they've got it going on over there. They've got the gym. They've got their own, do you guys still have the arcade and stuff over there? Little arcade area?
Little bit. We do a little bit.
The concession area and all that. Yeah, they got a nice building and set up over there. And then sometimes you guys use the fellowship hall and the actual church building. So with all of those great things, the facilities, and I'm sure with the size of you guys' ministry, you have quite a bit of young people that come. What are some challenges that you face as a youth pastor?
Can I be honest with you?
Sure.
The most toughest one is our parents.
Oh man!
Here's the crazy thing. We have a building. We have a building that in the sanctuary can seat up to 600 young people. We have a hangout area. We have a gymnasium. We have office spaces and all that stuff. And parents, for the most part, won't bring their kids 3 miles down the road for them to be a part of it. and so sometimes the same parents who can say, my child needs help, will be the same parents who won't take the time to drive them 3 miles. But here's the crazy, these same parents will drop them off at the mall or somebody's house, but they won't take the time to get them in a safe environment where we can build that relationship and build them up and things of that nature. So the strange thing is, the number one issue is the parents.
Oh man.
Parent participation. Parents seeing the importance of getting their young people to the youth ministry on a consistent basis. We can see some young people every 6 months, but let's be honest, you can't build a relationship with a young person in every 6 months, every 3 months. Consistent, constant touch and feel in any relationship for it to flourish and grow.
That's very true. That is funny that you say that, because I say that sometimes about the parents here, and just in general, I say the parents who don't bring their kids, or the parents who everything else is more important than church. Those are the main ones that the youth leader hears about when their kids do something wrong. Well, I need you to come talk to my kid. Your kid's not going to listen to me. You know why they're not going to listen? Because we don't have that consistent relationship. So we don't have a bond for me to say anything to your kid. They're going to look at me like, who are you talking to me? I don't know you. Yeah, you're the youth minister at the church, but we don't have that type of relationship. And it's unfortunate, but in this day and time, we're finding that the shift is happening with a lot of parents and with people in general, that we say we love God, but our focus is nowhere near Him. We will sacrifice for everything. Oh, I got to get my kids to this football game. I got to get them to basketball. Got to get them to AAU. I got to get them to gymnastics. I got to get them to track. But when it comes to church, nope. But then, like I said, when trouble comes, then that's the first people we call them.
Pray for myself.
So we want you all to know that you're not the only ones that may be dealing with that. We're saying that, and I don't say that as like an arrogant statement that us coming from a larger ministry is just by nature of what we are. We're in larger ministries. We deal with that too, that we have parents that are inconsistent sometimes. It's not even the workers. Our workers are great because, I know we kind of operate a little bit of the same. So we try to keep people energized. He's goofy like I am. He likes to have a good time. So I know that, they don't have staffing problems, but if we could just get the parents to do right, And if, we just had an unlimited wallet, no budgets, just blow as much money as we want. We can do as much as we want with the kids. But, that brings me to our next question. What is, can you kind of describe the structure of things, of how you do things over at Canaan?
Well, how we flow, we've kind of tweaked it to depending on our group, because the previous group we had, we grew them and they were very mature. And so we set up the service just like it was very similar to the service our adults had. But it was ran by young people. They did the scripture, they did the prayer, they did the praise and worship, they did the offering, they were the altar workers. They did all of that. But we saw with this next phase, we had to switch it up where they were a little bit more younger. We got a little more 13, 14, 15. So we had to switch it up a little bit where now we don't start off with praise and worship. We start off on Sundays with an activity because we want them to start to get to know one another. And we can't just throw them into praise and worship and then expect them to get that when the truth of the matter, they're not even comfortable with one another. So what we did was we said, we're going to do an activity to start with a team building where they can get to know one another. We're going to do a lesson. And so we even did some things a little bit even out of the box. We would finish that up. And right now we're getting prepared for our youth month. So then we move out after our lesson, we move into we got some will go to choir, we got some go praise and worship, we got some dancers that we're preparing for that because we said, okay, let's not fight ourselves. Let's be honest, how many of these kids are going to get back here during the week for this thing? So we kind of use that to kind of shift it up. But the main structure of making sure they're getting the word, because what we want to do is, we said we want to do two things if we don't do anything else. We want to build a relationship with all of our young people, and we want to teach the word on a level that they all can get it. We said if we can do those two things, we can bring them in. Everything we do is centered around that. If it don't build relationships or help them understand the word on a better level, then that's not for us. That may be the youth ministry down the street, which they may do an excellent job with that. But this is what we do. We build relationships and we teach the word. So that's how we kind of try to structure how we flow and do things.
It's great that you said that too, that it may work for the youth ministry down the street, but it may not work here. And I think sometimes, not just in youth ministry, but in churches as a whole and in general, we miss the mark sometimes because we think that because we're a church, we're supposed to do everything. But everything is not for every church.
Exactly.
And how I say it to our youth leaders here, and even I also serve as the leader of our creative team here at the church, and I tell them, we're not a chicken dinner church. So, if we want to raise funds, there's a different way that we raise funds.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with people if you do that, but that's not in the vision of our ministry. We don't sell chicken dinners. We don't do fundraisers to get money to do things here. So that may work for, Bebe and them's church down in the hood, but it don't work for us, when you're in the suburbs. It doesn't work that well to do those type of things. So whereas, with some ministries, it does work for them to just do it straight like the adult church. Then you have another crew of young people that you have to do different things to break it up and get them involved, especially us with being in a suburban church. Suburban schools have a tendency sometimes to breed cliques. So to break up that cliquish behavior, you do have to do things to get inside of their culture and say, okay, well, you're not at school right now. This is a different crew. So let's intermingle and intertwine with one another. So I think that's good. What are some unique things that you use to reach?
I allow God to really speak to me and switch things up.
Okay.
Like say, for instance, there may be times that I need to deal with something or I'm seeing something in our young people and it's like, okay, let's wipe out the activity. We're going to jump right into the lesson. Or you may do something where, hey, today we're not going to have a lesson. We're going to break off. Hey, young men, you go over there. Young ladies, you go over here. Hey, the older teenagers, I want you to lead a discussion on such and such, because this is what our young people are struggling with. These are what our young people are dealing with. Or we may walk in and say, hey, they killing this activity right now. They learning something from this. Let's keep flowing with the activity. We're going to allow this activity to be our lesson for the day. Or we may even do something. Hey, let's pick up. Let's go. We may send the phone blast out to a couple hours. Hey, bring $10. We're going to lead a church and we're going to go to McDonald's or we're going to go to Applebee's. We're going to hang out. We're just going to have a discussion or we're just going to hang out. Let's get to know one another.
That's awesome.
You got to have to do different things and you have to allow God. You have to know your young people and to be able to see their faces and to see what works and what clicks for them. Because let's be honest, sometimes things we try, They don't
doesn't
work. And you kind of just scratch it out. There have been times I stopped stuff in the middle of it. Said, nah, this ain't working. We got young people over here, they ain't paying no attention. They ain't paying no attention. You got 3 people paying attention. The other 35 is just into it. So let's move and let's switch. So you have to be willing just to move according however your creativity goes, or, you know, just doing even different things with the lessons. You know, one time I came out, I had a casket. I had a casket. Lawrence A. Jones helped us out. They brought an empty casket. And those kids, they paid attention to that hole because they just want to know what's going on with that casket.
Can I get a casket in here?
And so, you know, doing different things like to get your point across, or whatever the case may be, and using them in illustrations, pulling them up, and things of that. Giveaways is a great thing. I give away.
Yeah, they love that.
Watches. I'm a big watch guy, and so especially my young men, they know I'm big. I have collections of watches, so I'll give away a watch. Man, you've been doing a great job. You've been doing a great job on the camera. You've been doing a great job greeting people. And I give it in front of everybody. I want everybody to see that you're doing a great job. So doing different things to get them active and involved and excited about it. You know, one time we had $100 Sunday. Whatever youth brought the most visitors on that day got $100.
Wow. That's a good incentive.
Keep it $100.
Can I come over there and visit? Can I get, I'll bring some folks with me. I'll bring all of them. Can I get $100? No, that's really good. And that you guys incorporate them into a lot of stuff and get them involved versus them just sitting and watching. We're transitioning to that place. We're in a place of, as you know, rebuilding and kind of restructuring some things. So this week, I'm starting to light a fire. Because I pulled in a couple of them that want to do stuff and starting to get them involved. So the rest of them are like, how'd she get to do that?
Exactly.
Wait a minute. Why are they doing it? Yep. So now that gets them all involved and intrigued with doing that. And that also plugs them into that. But what did you do to get them to a place that you could say, you know, hey, I want you to lead this discussion? What was your teaching method? How did you, get the basic principles in them to be able to be strong enough to teach the other ones?
Well, first we just observed. We would have them do activities, and we would watch the ones who would take the lead. Because in any group, you're going to at least have one or two. You may not have about 50 of them, but you're going to have one or two that kind of jump out there and take the lead. Yeah. To jump out to give ideas, to jump out to answer questions. Even when times we may be asking questions. For those who raise their hands, well, I got a question, or this is what I think. Those are the ones you want to start pulling out. And what we did was we used our Bible study, because at one time we was getting 16 to 17s on a Bible study night. And so what we did was, we saw that they were showing up to Bible study. We showed they had a hunger. So what we did, we separated them from everybody else. We had a special class for them, and we told them, we said, we see something special in you guys. You guys have shown yourself to be. And so we went through the basics. We went through what is the Bible? Who is Jesus? Who is God? Is the Holy Spirit important? Who is He? We went through all that basics of communion, baptism, and we allowed them to ask questions, and we dug deeper, and we hit the base, because we said we want you guys as foundation to be strong. So when we talking about stuff, you guys say, hey, I've been studying such and such, such and such. And this is the question I had, or this is what I believe by reading this particular scripture or whatever. And so it gave them the confidence to say, hey, we're better than what we thought, because we kept pouring. Every week we said, you guys are special. You guys are leaders. We see so much greatness in you guys. And it began to build them up, because then they become confident, because we're teaching them the basics. We're still teaching the other kids, but we're able to get a little bit deeper instead of just being surface. And I think that's where youth ministers and youth leaders miss it. Because let's think about this. Our young people learn trigonometry, they can advance algebra, and then they come to church and get basic ABCs that you learn in kindergarten or first grade and second grade. Sometimes we need to be able to pull those to the side and say, hey, let's go deeper in this thing, because I see something greater in you. God has shown me something more about you that we have to pull out. And we can't pull it out just being shallow. We can't pull it out just to being surface. So we have to dig into this word. Okay, why do you, and we have to challenge. And this is what I would do. I would ask the question, even if they gave me the right answer, I'd be like, really? Are you sure? And if they start thinking like, I don't know.
It makes them dig.
It makes them dig. And then they'd be like, that was the right answer. I said, I know. I said, but I wanted you to be confident.
Sure that
I want you to be able to tell me, nah, Mr. Roman, I believe such because of A, B, C, or D. At least make me give you valid points on why you're wrong.
Yep.
Or why I perceive it can be something different. You know, so that we had to build them up, take that personal, intimate time, get them away from everybody. Because here's the thing. Young people are cliquish by nature.
Yeah, they are.
Young people want to fit in by nature. And if you see them kind of pulling that out, well, you have to separate them a little bit before you bring them back to the group so that they're strong enough to be the leader that you see that they can be.
Yeah, but not just with the young people, but even with your youth leaders that work with you, you know, because one of the things that I'm trying to instill in them is really that title that they have, youth leader.
Yes.
What does a leader do? A leader leads. And, you know, there's certain things that you have to pull out of them. Like I have some of them that, bless their heart, they had a desire that they want to help, but they're just really shy and they don't like being in front of people. So like I've told them in the month of April, I'm taking off of teaching. And all my shy people are going to teach that whole month. And so from the end of this month to, you know, to after we have a meeting on the 18th. So from that time to the end of the month, I'm gonna be spending time with them, training them, getting them ready. Teaching April, they're teaching because I want them to be prepared to do this thing. And yeah, you know, when I was here previously about 4 years ago, I used to do something similar to what you're talking about called Junior Armor Bearers. And the guys used to love that when I did that. And I would take and, you know, I had little pillows on the ground and I would lay hands on them and give them certificates. And I got them the little these little crosses as Junior Armor Bearers, not as like the typical armor bearer that carries the preacher stuff around, but no, because of I'm saying we're going to take you and train you, you know, on how to be the armor bearer for the ministry, how you're going to be the one to be able to go behind the veil, even as a young person for the ministry. And so I taught them that, and I have parents to this day whose kids were a part of that say, man, that really touched my son's life, and, you know, really love that fact that they were being set apart and that you recognize that they had some spiritual maturity even at their young age. So, but man, this has been awesome, man. I wish we had more time, but I got one more question to ask you before we go, because we're getting close to the end of our time. If you had to give advice to a struggling youth minister, struggling youth leader that's like, I'm pulling my hair out, I don't know what to do, I'm operating on E, I have no gas left to do this, what would you tell them?
I would tell number one, because this is the greatest thing that people who pour into people miss. You have to pour into yourself. You can't always study for the young people. You can't always study for the youth leaders. You can't always study just to pour out, because eventually you're going to get drained. You're going to get frustrated. Things aren't going to go the way you want them to go. We all experience that. But if you're constantly allowing God to pour into you, if you're constantly spending time in worship, in prayer, even outside of with the young people, because let's be honest, even when we're in there with the young people, we're really not fully engaged in worship. You're focused on them. You're focused making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. You make sure the leaders, you make sure everything is set up the way. You got to look at all of these different things. And so you get neglected in the process. You don't spend time in your word for you. You don't spend time in prayer for you. You don't spend time in worship getting your spirit right. So I would say make sure you pour into you, because at the end of the day, an empty vessel can't pour into an empty glass.
You got to have something to pour out. Y'all heard it. An empty vessel can't pour into an empty glass. And you know, this is what I will add to that. Be flexible always with your youth ministry. Because nothing is etched in stone until it's on the head. It's on a headstone. That's what I say. Nothing's etched in stone until it's on the headstone. Other than that, it's always open to being changed. So always be open to that. And this has been the March edition of Explosive Youth Ministry. I hope this was a blessing to you and that you enjoyed it. And we look forward to being back in your face in April. Peace.